Good morning. This is George Kahn. Today is Tuesday, May 26th. A woman came into the deli this morning at 7 and ordered a half sandwich. She has been ordering the half for about a year. She used to order the whole. She paid in singles and a small handful of change, and she put the change in the jar by the register. She did not count it. I wrapped the sandwich and said the same thing I say every Tuesday, and she said the same thing back. She works 2 part-time jobs now. She used to work one. She does not tell me about it. I do not ask. We have been doing this on Tuesdays for a long time. I read the news this morning before I opened. I read it on my phone, standing at the slicer with the lights still off in the front of the deli. Matt Franson is the president of UAW Local 1268 in Belvidere, Illinois. He has been writing the same update to his members for 3 years and 3 months. The Stellantis plant in Belvidere has been silent since February of 2023. About 1,000 workers were laid off in the final round. In October, the company told the union the plant would reopen in 2027. In January, Franson told his members the date had slipped to mid-2028. On Thursday last week, in Auburn Hills, Michigan, 300 miles from Belvidere, the CEO of Stellantis stood on a stage and unveiled a new strategic plan. 60 billion euros, 60 new vehicles. The slide about Belvidere said retooling could begin this year. I read all of this before the front lights were on. Then I started the soup. Split pea. I make it on Tuesdays. I have been making it on Tuesdays for as long as I have run this deli. I want to tell you about a stool in my deli. The third stool from the door is the seat where a man would have been sitting at 6:45 this morning. If his shift in Belvidere had not been ended in February of 2023, he would have come in for the breakfast plate, eggs over easy, before his shift started at 7. I have served men like him for 31 years. 3 of them in Illinois have been gone since February of 2023. They were never my customers. They lived in Illinois. The stool is the seat in my deli where they would have been if their plant had been mine. I have not moved it in 3 years. The lunch rush started at 11:30. I sliced pastrami. I made change. I wiped down the counter where a man had spilled something. I thought about Matt Franson writing the next update, tonight or tomorrow or Sunday. He has written these updates standing at his kitchen counter and sitting at the table, and once I am imagining in the parking lot of the Union Hall with the truck running. He writes the part where he tells them something has moved. He writes the part where he tells them he does not have an answer. He writes the part where he tells them he is still asking. A regular came in at 12:15. He asked about my grandson, and I told him. The boy has a baseball game on Saturday. The radio was on low. The radio said something about Auburn Hills. The regular did not look up from his plate, and I did not turn the radio up. After he left, I wrapped a pastrami sandwich for a teenager I had not seen before. I gave him his change. I did not look at the third stool from the door. I knew where it was. By 2 o'clock, the room was empty. I sat down on the stool behind the counter, which I do not usually do, and I looked across the counter at the third stool from the door. The stool was where I had left it. I have not moved it in 3 years. I sat there for a few minutes. I do not know what I was thinking about. The man in Belvidere, maybe, or the woman with the half sandwich, or my grandson. The deli was quiet the way it is at 2 o'clock and nowhere else in the day. Tonight or tomorrow or Sunday, Matt Franson will write the next update. He will hit send. A man in Belvidere will read it on his phone, standing in his kitchen, with the bills next to him on the table. He may be standing at the table. He may be sitting at it. The chair across from him has been empty for 3 years too. I do not know him. I have never been to Belvidere. What I have is a stool in my deli. I have not moved in 3 years. A woman who used to order the whole sandwich. A regular who asked about my grandson today and did not look up when the radio said Auburn Hills. A teenager I gave a pastrami sandwich to who will not remember me by next Tuesday. A radio I keep on low. A slicer I have used for 31 years. This is what I have. The deli closed at 3. I locked the front. I turned off the lights in the front of the deli. The room got darker. I came back behind the counter and stood there for a while. Then I walked over to the third stool from the door and I straightened it, though it did not need straightening. Tomorrow morning at 6:45, the stool will be where I left it. I will be at the slicer. The eggs will be where I keep them. The radio will be off until I turn it on. The deli will open at 6. This is George Kahn, your host for today's Quiet Echo. Thanks for listening. Cedar Valley News has a Facebook group. If you have comments and want to join the conversation, you are welcome. Tell us about a seat you have kept open for someone you have never met. I will put the link in the show notes. Quiet Echo is part of the fictional Cedar Valley News series written by Evan Swenson, publisher, and Claude Marshall, AI developmental editor. While the people in town of Cedar Valley are fictional, Matt, Franson, UAW Local 1268 Stellantis, the city of Belvidere, Illinois, and the events described in this podcast are real.
You've been listening to the Cedar Valley News Podcast, where small-town voices meet the headlines shaping our world. From faith and family to front porches and fields. We'll be back with more stories connecting real lives to real events. Until next time, keep your porch light on, your faith strong, and your heart open. This is Cedar Valley News.